Well, I'm on the farm here today, and I got a few chores to do, but I thought I'd do a video while I'm doing them on starting a hay farm, or even a small farm for that matter. And the question comes up, where does the money come from? So one of the things you have to establish right off the bat is when you're starting a farm, a small farm, or a small hay farm in our case, you need to have a long-term view of it. And it's going to be a marathon, not a sprint. And I'm a little different. When I started recapitalizing this farm, I was older, and I'm at a certain advantage because, as I've mentioned before, in my day job, I'm a hotshot engineer, and or I joke that I'm a hotshot engineer, but so I make a little more money than some people do, and make a whole lot less than other people do. But nonetheless, we've saved our money through the years, and we've been right frugal, I think. And so when it came time to spend money on certain items, we had the cash money to pay, and we also we had the discipline not to buy everything all at one time, and so we reinvested our hay revenue right back into the farm. And I've got a video that came out before this one, a few videos earlier, and it basically talks about the capitalization of this farm, at least for hay, and for right now is pretty much over, and we're ready to just kind of exercise the equipment, make hay, and put to bed the big spending for a little bit. But the bottom line is, you got to spend money to make money, and how you go about it can affect your success or failure on the farm. I need to move this thing out of the way. We're going to put it on that trailer over there for another chore, another day. And we're also going to move it out of this spot. So, one of the ways, and I actually made notes. For this video while I'm working and talking. And one of the biggest things we did in order to have money to invest on this farm was we simply drove our cars longer. So, instead of trading every 4 or 5 or 6 years, we'll drive a car. We had a minivan, Honda minivan, that we drove for 18 years. It seemed like every car we own, or truck, before we let it go, it's over 300,000 miles. And here's the thing. So, this is a 1958 International McCormick Farmall 350, and I felt like I got it for a pretty good price. But how many cars were built in 1958 that are even running? And unless it's a collector, unless there's something collector about it, or the car's right new, when you drive them off the lot, the values plummet. And I dare say this 64-year-old tractor is worth more than probably 95% of 64-year-old cars, if they would even run. I mean, most of them would be in the junkyard, but these things are built to last, and they hold their value. And I haven't looked it up. I don't know that I paid as much for this tractor 64 years later as it did when it was new. But, you read about John Deere 4020s and 4440s selling, farmer had them for 20 years and sold them for more than he paid for them. when they were new. But so drive your car as long as you can. Instead of investing that money in something that'll go to zero and really doesn't make you any money other than haul yourself to work, invest in that money in equipment that will make money. The difference between this and an automobile and this and those things down there is they return money on the investment. Then they don't. Not only do they hold their value, but they are a mechanism to produce income. So don't buy cars, buy farm equipment. That's a good place where the money would come from. So the next thing you want to do is when you're buying equipment, we talk about resale, is try to buy, your hay bine or your baler with the idea that whatever you paid for it, if you had to sell it the next day, you might get just as much money back, or you might find that you could flip it and make money. And that's important, because if you get in a jam and you have to sell a piece of equipment to raise some money, it's always good to at least break even. If you can make more than that, that would be even better. I'm just kind of running the tractor around as I talk to put some juice back on the battery. None of this equipment right here did I pay very much for, and I'm pretty confident that I could make money on it if I sold it. Let me see what else I got on my list here. So, people ask me, should you borrow money to buy, equipment? And I would say that depends. Depends on your financial situation. To me, if you're going to borrow money, there's two things. One of them is you got to ask yourself, if everything went wrong, would you be able to make that payment, or would they come get your equipment? And the second thing is I feel that if you're going to borrow money, you do not take the 0% interest. People say, I got 0% interest, but usually they won't talk about it, but usually if you go with conventional financing, which might be 5 or 6%, you'll get a substantial amount off of the price of the machine. And the reason that's important is because if you're good with your money, what you'll do is, instead of taking 4 or 5 years to pay off that piece of equipment, you might pay it off in a year or 2 years if you really double down. And so when you take 0% financing and you're paying full price, it doesn't matter if you pay it off early, because you're locked into that higher price. So my recommendation is, if you're going to borrow money, take conventional financing with the goal of paying it off earlier. And when you do pay it off, you're paying off a lower price than you would with 0%. Now, sometimes there is no difference, and just make sure it's simple interest and there's no penalty for paying it off early. All right, I'm hooked up. I put this thing in TA when I back up to slow things down a little bit, which is nice. We're going to use this trailer for another chore. Right there's the 25-year-old van. So another thing that I highly recommend is if you're going to farm and you're going to be farming for profit, such that you'll be filing a Schedule F tax form on your returns, then you need to use depreciation, and you got to be careful with it. But the goal with depreciation on a startup is to allow you to use 100% of your dollar, that you can write off the cost of that equipment and use 100% of your dollar. And then when you do sell it, let's say you bought a piece of equipment for $10,000 and you know, 10 years later you sold it for $7,000, you have to report that $7,000 as income, and that's what you'll pay taxes on, but not $10,000. So, you know, it's very important to let me try to get this thing in here. It's very important to try to use 100% of your dollar when you're buying your equipment, and you know, why wouldn't you? So, all right, I'm done with this thing. So I got the trailer on this tractor ready for another day. The TA's right handy on this Farmall 350. The next thing I'm going to move is that 1105, so we'll reconvene with it. Alright, so we're going to go get the crone, and while we're doing that, I'll chit-chat a little more. So, when you're trying to save money or come up with money, you know, it's helpful if you're a mechanic. So, I'm not saying you need to split a tractor as big as this thing, but if you can do small repairs, which is kind of what I do. I don't get into anything really big because I am not a mechanic. We've kind of built into our business plan that you know, we're going to farm out at least the big repairs on this. But nonetheless, you know, if you can buy a project and get it going, it's kind of like gambling, because sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't. And you know, we've had success buying a piece of equipment that needed something, and then did some elbow grease on it, and it worked like a champ. And our New Holland 156 tedder is a prime example of that. One of the tine arms was missing, and the reason it was is because there was a bolt that had sheared off up into the casting on the gearbox. And my brother, he's a really good welder, and he welded a nut to it, and the thing screwed right out like it was not tight at all. And I was able to put another tine arm on it. But after a few years, there's one of the baskets, there's a gear problem up in the basket somewhere, and I'm either going to sell that 2-basket tedder, or it'll be a project one of these years. But so you can, coming up with the money, maybe you don't need to come up with as much money if you can do some repairs yourself. Grass is growing pretty nice, I think. Got the AC going on the Massey 1105 too. Alright, I got the crone hooked up to the Massey 1105. The quick hitch is really nice for this. I don't have the raise and lower hooked up, and I don't have the PTO, but that'll come another day. Mostly I want to get this thing out of the weather so I can service it and keep it out of the weather. I don't know that this thing will come off until we start cutting hay, which I hope is soon. right, so there's only a few more things that come to mind with regard to, where the money comes from for your farm when you first get started. And I think we touched on some pretty important things. You want to try to improve things. You want to try to improve things as much as you can, and that's kind of where we're at with our capitalization complete. We're in the mode now where we want to do repairs and maybe some small rebuilds. We just kind of want to get ourselves where our equipment is more and more polished every year, and so you want to try to improve on your technique. You kind of want to make sure that you're spending your money, kind of get an idea how much fertilizer you need, or lime, how much fuel, and kind of come to some kind of harmony there. And that, the less consumables that you need, the more money you're going to save, and you can reinvest in your hay operation. So just try to keep improving incrementally, and then of course reinvest to the extent you can, especially during your startup phase. Reinvest in your hay operation. Pour money right back into your equipment, or buying other equipment to get going. And I'll have some more videos on financing, depreciation. They'll be kind of separate from this. I've touched on them just a little bit. Probably the number one thing when you're starting a small farm is you need to be focused on what you're doing, and you need to write a business plan so that you have a roadmap to where you want to go, and so that you're not just bouncing around, spending money and wasting a pile of time, trying to get some traction. And again, I suppose the advice I've got here would be suitable for a hobby farm, but I see no reason why a small part-time farm, even when you got a full-time day job like I do, I see no reason why it can't produce a nice income. And I don't feel that when you start your farm, you should plan on breaking even forever. At some point, after you start reinvesting and capitalizing your farm, I think at some point, you ought to be able to take some of the profits to put in your own pocket. Just like you get paid on your day job, the farm should pay something as well. And so let me get this thing situated and backed in, and I'll come back to this video real quick. Backed in, and got a board underneath the foot down there, and I'm ready to shut this powerhouse down. Grab my key. Make sure that switch is turned off up there. So, just to kind of recap, there's, where do you get the money to build your farm? It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You buy things as you can, and plow it back into your business, plow the profits and proceeds back in, into your business to the extent you can, and try to make smart decisions, and with our hay, we're selling to horse customers, so we really need reliable equipment. But we also need equipment that works when I'm not working my day job. And so the disc mower conditioner really helps with that, because I can mow in the evenings when the dew comes. I could mow in the rain with this mower, and then the tine conditioners on here do an excellent job for grass hay, which is what we make. And so it's one less day out on the field if you condition hay, I think. And a reliable baler. We kick our square bales into a kicker wagon, so we're on the field and off the field in one pass. We just got this John Deere 335 4x4 round baler. Obviously it's a low-cost piece compared to this John Deere baler out here and this Krone. But one thing I wanted to mention in regards to implements, and that is a long-term view of owning them. So people say, well, you'll never get your money back out of that John Deere baler right there, or this Krone mower conditioner, in, let's say, 4 months, 4 years, or 3 years, or 5 years. But it's our intent to use this equipment for a long time. And in some ways I'm setting my boys up, and my daughter, whoever decides to come along, if they do, I'm kind of setting them up to be able to continue on without spending very much money. But the bottom line is, for us, these things pencil out. This Krone and the John Deere square baler in particular, I bought these things in December of the year that they were being sold. And I'm pretty sure in Virginia, if you got inventory on your lot, whether it's a car or a piece of tractor equipment, if you got it on your lot, they hit you with an inventory tax. And so I've got another video on this Krone, and this thing set out on the dealer lot behind the building. It was at a John Deere dealer, and John Deere wanted it out from in front of the dealership and in back, really kind of out of sight. And it was for probably close to 2 years. And so year-end deal, nobody wanted a Krone. These are kind of not very prevalent in our area. That's changing. People are realizing they're premium machines and buying them. But they gave me a smoking deal for not much more, for a few $1,000s more than what a brand New Holland 488 hay bine would have cost. And this is 20 times the machine of that 488. Same thing with the John Deere baler. I bought it like on December the 31st, and I negotiated with them and whittled them down. I put them against a New Holland dealer on a square baler, and I knew I wanted the John Deere. Felt like it was the right size piece of equipment for my 5055D John Deere out here. And so I wound up paid just about $300 more for this than a BC 5070 similarly equipped a New Holland. The John Deere tractor out there I bought, it's a no frills tractor. And the year I bought that thing, I bought it new. You could buy the base model Hyundai car costs more than that John Deere did, but that's a real agriculture tractor. It's not some Yanmar powered compact tractor that people use. And I'm not saying anything disparaging about those or the BX. They all have their place, and honestly I wouldn't mind having one to do some chores around up here. But we've just kind of tried to pick equipment and get deals on them that we could. The Massey Ferguson, compared to an equivalent John Deere 4240 or 4040, it was much less money. and I can sell it for what I got in it, probably make a little bit of money. And so, just kind of be patient and judicious when you're buying this stuff, and use depreciation. Be careful with it, and I'll have a video on that. I'm not saying, when I say be careful, I'm not suggesting that you don't use it. What I'm suggesting is something different that I'll get into in another video. New tractors, new equipment, they have a place if you can afford them. It's not always necessary to buy a piece of junk, and it depends on what your financial situation is and what your outlook it looks like as far as revenue goes. Your business plan will go a long ways towards defining what kind of return you're going to get on your investment, because if you're not just bouncing off the walls with your hay operation or your small farm operation, you're actually putting some numbers to paper. You might find that you can pencil out a new tractor, and I'm not talking about some $100,000 tractor. I'm talking about, and I'm gonna give a shout out here. Oh God, now I gotta remember his name. I really like his channel. Denny's Country Life. He just bought a Workmaster, a New Holland Workmaster, and it's kind of the low end on New Holland, but it's a full up tractor. It's a real deal agriculture tractor, and you buy one of those instead of a New Holland T6 or a T5, and you're getting a pretty good value for your money, and they do hold their value. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be dollar for dollar, but when you compare it to a new car you drive off the lot, they're going to hold their value much better than that, and they're going to return money on your investment. So I don't necessarily agree that you should never buy a piece of new equipment, but I'll have a video talking more about my thoughts on that. I know some people would vehemently disagree on that, and that's okay. But so long-term do-it-yourself maintenance to the extent you can. I'm not much of a mechanic. I can do some things, but sometimes we have to farm out some of the bigger repairs. Try to improve. Just this barn right here, I will tell you that we had a guy build this barn for us, a local fella. He did a great job, I think, and he designed it and I designed it, and we kind of came to an agreement somewhere in the middle, and it went up. And Morton wouldn't give me the time of day on this barn, and I tried to get him to give me a quote, some warranty info, and they just wouldn't do it for whatever reason. But once I got the barn built, I called the salesman back and said, "Hey, we built this barn, and I was just kind of jerking his chain because I wanted a price." And I said, "But we've kind of filled it up. We think we might want a second barn, and here's what I want." And I gave him apples to apples as best I could to Morton with what we got here. He was $30,000 higher. So, you might need a barn. You might have to settle for a carport. You might have to settle for a barn like this. And I've got a video, if you do a search on it, that's called The Anatomy of a Hay Barn. And I talk about why we put it together the way we did, and, what we did. That saved a lot of money that could be plowed into something else. One of the biggest things is charge your customer the actual cost of your hay making. And so you want to pencil in margin. You don't want to break even, and you don't want to give away your hay. You don't want to send money on a truck out of your farm just to be nice to somebody else. They're not being very nice to you if they're going to talk you into a loss. And sooner or later, somebody will buy your hay. And if you can get the quality of your hay or whatever it is that you're farming into a niche where it's just really, really good stuff, people will seek you out and they'll pay. And on the flip side of that, I would say don't gouge and rip people off, that kind of thing. Be profitable in your farm, but don't be abusive with with your prices. And so video's probably a little longer than I thought it would be, but I thought I'd do a few chores. And I got the farm all 350 sitting over there, and I got the crone in here where I can grease it up. I don't know that it'll come off the big Massey until we start cutting hay. I'm hoping within a month we'll have something to start cutting. We've had a cold spring. I'm not sure that's going to happen. And so just kind of getting ourselves in shape. As I mentioned in my video a few videos ago, we are fully capitalized as far as I'm concerned on this farm. So it's taken a long time, and but we've been patient about it, and we've picked our financial battles. And so we're ready now to farm and focus on maintenance and repairs and a few projects, things like that. And the big spending, I feel like, is behind us. So where's the money come from on a farm? Hopefully this was helpful. Subscribe, comment, and we'll talk to you later.